My name's Marcus Kane. I'm a full-time nutrition coach and I'm going to share with you how to start making really good food choices easily. And one quick note, if you do want to hear some more in-depth conversations about struggles with food and how to overcome them, check out the Strong Not Starving podcast and make sure you are subscribed to this channel. This is my first full-length video on YouTube, so more will be on the way and my editing skills will improve. Now, every week, people reach out to me and tell me how disappointed they are in their food choices, how frustrated they are that they can't seem to get it right, and how bad they feel about themselves when they look around and see other people seemingly easily able to just make healthy food choices and it not be a big deal. And I get it, because for 15 years, my own food choices and what was going on with me and my diet was a total disaster. Sometimes I felt good, like I was in control. Other times I felt like I had absolutely no control. And the ironic thing is that for 10 of those 15 years, I was a personal trainer. So when I did have a bad food day, I felt like a total failure. And these issues with food were bleeding into other areas of my life. There was nothing I did, whether it be socially or whether it be in my career or even opportunities to travel, my relationships, whatever it might be, nothing I did escaped this issue with food that I had. Everything was affected by it. I've been through that and it sucked. So after finding my way through it, I've dedicated my career to helping people who are experiencing similar problems. Because whatever we want to achieve, whether it be optimal performance or better health, or even if it's just to feel good about ourselves and the decisions that we're making, it's really easy to get caught in loops about things like discipline and organization, and thinking if I could be more disciplined or if I could be more organized, then that would just solve the problem. But discipline and organization and just like wanting it bad enough, it's not the whole story. So one of the biggest obstacles to making good food choices easily is self-judgment, or what some people refer to as the inner critic. Some people out there might say that their inner critic, or this harsh voice in their head, keeps them on the straight and narrow. It motivates them, it keeps them working hard. And sure, that's one way to go about it, but sometimes it can be a real obstacle to making easy choices from a place of intrinsic motivation. Why? Because when we get caught in these cycles of guilt and shame and self-criticism and self-judgment and overthinking, it distracts us from where our attention really needs to be. And if we stay stuck in that place, constantly wrapped up in cycles of overthinking and shame and guilt and frustration, every time we try to make a good choice, more often than not, like it's gonna feel like we're trying to swim upstream, rather than being able to make good choices from a more peaceful place. And the thing to practice here that's gonna open a path to much, much easier food choices is to get a handle on self-judgment. This is gonna clear space to actually be able to connect with how different choices with food genuinely make you feel. This is what's going to provide that intrinsic motivation. Now, this is something that most of us never experience because we're too caught up in the intellectualization of food choices. Now, I'm not denying for a second that a burger and fries is going to feel pretty good, but there's going to be a point of diminishing returns for those kind of food choices. There's going to be a point at which they stop being enjoyable and start becoming a burden. Kind of like adding too much salt to something that you're cooking. There's going to be a certain amount of salt that will make most dishes taste pretty good. But then, once there's too much, it kind of ruins everything. And this is true of some of these food choices. There's going to be a certain amount of them that actually are quite enjoyable. But once we pass a certain point, they're no longer really enjoyable. They just kind of become crappy. But most of us aren't really connecting with this on an internal level, on that visceral level, because we're too wrapped up in giving ourselves a hard time for having made those choices. So clearing space, free from self-judgment and self-criticism and overthinking, will really help you connect with the visceral memory, the actual experience of different choices to the point where your body will start to remember and your body will start to inform your decisions much, much better than it currently is. And I know that sounds cheesy, but tell me, has there ever been a food or maybe a drink or something that you had like a terrible experience with, that maybe it gave you food poisoning or you got the world's most rancid hangover or something like that, and now every time you think of that food, you get like a visceral sense. Your body is like, dude, no, I don't. Just no. This is what I mean. It no longer requires discipline and willpower to say no thanks to those options because we have that visceral memory. The reason we have that visceral memory is because it's attached to an experience that is so strong we can't help but remember it. What we're doing here is opening the space to connect with more subtle versions of these memories. So when we do get a handle on self-judgment, when we do get a handle on our inner critic, it opens the space for our body to actually speak to us and go, you know what, last time we did that, it wasn't that great. And this is an experience that's really foreign to a lot of us because of the level of noise our inner critic and our self-judgment is producing on a daily basis. So if you want to be in the position where you can make choices with food that are going to make you feel good when you're presented with a bunch of different options, this is the first step to take. Start noticing how much you just habitually criticize yourself with no other goal other than to just catch yourself doing it. Now, you might not feel like this is a game-changing step here, but the thing to keep in mind is the observer effect. This refers to a phenomenon where things tend to change once they are observed. This is especially true of behaviors, habits. When we bring awareness to something that has previously gone unobserved, usually it starts to change. And even if it doesn't change completely, the act of observing it and drawing awareness to it opens the opportunity to create change. Now, just observing here isn't the entire picture, right? Things like stress, diet rigidity, fatigue, all these things play a role, and everyone's path is going to look a little bit different. But trying to take further steps, especially steps that involve like overhauling your diet, when there's a whole bunch of stuff going on beneath the surface that we're not even aware of, that's going to feel like you're swimming upstream against yourself. Every step forward is going to feel like it takes effort, and you're going to run out of stamina. So as an essential first step to making intrinsically motivated, good choices with food, peacefully, easily, this is what we're going to do. Practice noticing when the voice of your inner critic or the voice of your own self-judgment is acting as a distraction from much more useful information, like how you're genuinely feeling after making different choices. So if you do have an experience that you want to talk about, if you do have a question, drop it in the comments. And if you want to find out more, visit strongnot starving.com.